Herstmonceux Castle in the very heart of Sussex, where we have 80 degrees this afternoon of beautiful sunshine here on Bank Holiday Monday. And a fabulous crowd. Now, later on, you might like to know, by the way, we're about 60 miles from London and 14 miles west of Hastings. Herstmonceux Castle. As I say, later, Janice Long out and about with the crowd. Yeah! And, you know, we have a terrific crowd here. We must have about 10,000 people, and I think that they're largely here because of Janice Long's fabulous sex appeal. And maybe, I mean, I'm wearing my really sexy gear today. And for some reason, a lot of the women are throwing themselves against me. But it's okay, I'm an engaged man. Now, Janice Long will be getting on the time machine, whatever that is, later. She'll be talking telescopes with Dave King, who's got a 26-incher. Dave King does have a 26-incher, and you can find out all about that later. And later, television star and mega astronomer Patrick Moore will be our guest. Keep it here, all the stuff is here. 6 minutes after 2 with the Radio 1 Roadshow. It is not in Greenwich anymore. It's right here at Herstmonceux Castle in Sussex. Now, the Royal Greenwich Observatory was founded by Charles II in 1675 at Greenwich. After the war, the London skies were thought to be too polluted for clear observation, so they moved everything down here to Herstmonceux. Now, however, they are moving many of their operations to La Palma Observatory in the Canaries. Where observing conditions are infinitely clearer. They still have here 6 large telescopes, and Janice will be looking at a 26-incher, which I'm told she's used to. Afternoon, Peter. Later on, it's 11 after 2. B, C. Be coming out to talk to us, and also he is a mean player of the xylophone, and he'll be playing the xylophone live on stage here. Let me just do the weather. Thunderstorms over the UK this afternoon. Behind us actually is a lovely 15th century building left to go to ruin and then miraculously restored about 50 years ago. Now, it contains lots of interesting stuff, including journals of Captain Cook. And it used to be very near the sea, but the sea has now receded so much that it's disappeared. Has anyone seen the sea? We can't see the sea from here.
It's the castle, Steve, and there's an exhibition here, a museum, which must be an astronomer's delight. You can see all sorts of wonderful things here, dating back to goodness knows when, I think about 1609. And we'd be foolish to come here and not to talk to the total expert on astronomy, Patrick Moore.
Hello, nice to be here, particularly in this very grand exhibition, which has been open for some years now, and in fact they paid me the great honour of asking me to open it a long time ago.
When did you get involved in astronomy?
Oh, when I was 6 years old. That's a long time ago now. These really are rather wonderful things, aren't they? Look, for example, at that, and there's a replica of one of the very first astronomical telescopes by a gentleman named Galileo.
Now, that's the one everybody knows because they do him at school, don't they?
They do indeed. He was also the founder of the science of what we call experimental mechanics. Well, you know him as an astronomer. And that little telescope there, it's very weak by modern standards, of course. It collects its light by means of a lens, and it's not nearly so good as modern binoculars. But using that, Galileo made a whole series of discoveries. The craters of the moon, the stars in the Milky Way, the moons of Jupiter, and so on. But that second telescope you can see here is quite different. That's not the same kind of telescope as Galileo's. That's what we call a reflector. Collects its light by means of a mirror. And as you can see, it's tiny. And yet that telescope, which is a replica of one made by Sir Isaac Newton, who first worked out the principle, that is the direct ancestor of the great telescopes of today.
When did we start looking at the stars? Why did we want to do it?
I think one's got to say right before history began. After all, you look up at the sky and the stars are there, and I think people must have wondered what they were. They thought they were gods, of course, and they were wrong there. More telescopes here we can see. These are 19th century telescopes. That's a very famous one. But come in the end here, and here's another case. And that shows one very famous telescope. It's known as the Isaac Newton telescope, or the INT. Not because Newton built it, he died a long time ago. This was actually completed in 1967, and it was set up right here at Herstmonceux Castle, the outstation of the old Royal Observatory at Greenwich. And it was here for some time, but you can't say that the British climate is awfully good for astronomy.
Definitely
There's
not.
so much cloud and so much rain. And so finally the decision was made to take this telescope and transfer it to a new site at La Palma in the Canary Islands. It was given a new mirror at the same time. So there's still the old dome of the telescope here, but there's nothing in it now.
What does it actually do in La Palma then? What's it there for?
Well, La Palma is a very good site, and this is one of the world's great telescopes, and we are studying things that are very, very far away. The distant stars and star systems, so remote that their light, traveling at 186,000 miles a second, takes many, many years to reach us. We can see things now that are so far away that their light takes thousands of millions of years to reach us, and they're jolly faint. So we want good seeing of good telescopes. That's why the INT has gone to the Canary Islands.
Can we see forever?
I wish I knew. Probably not. We probably can't see beyond about 15,000 million light years. It's a long story, but certainly that telescope's going to see probably a long way toward the edge of the observable universe.
Patrick, you can show me some more of the exhibits in a moment, but David Bowie and Life on Mars, rather appropriately.
It's a god-awful small affair.
Well, we were looking at the Isaac Newton telescope before. Now, this one here seems to be mounted a wee bit differently. What is it?
Yes, indeed. This is a model of the William Herschel telescope, and this is now in the process of construction. It's not very far away from being finished, I may say. Should certainly be in action at least by next year. And this, as you rightly say, is not the same kind of mounting as the Isaac Newton telescope. It's built on a rather different principle, which is rather more convenient in many ways, but does need a computer to drive it. And this, in fact, is a bigger telescope, got a 4.2 meter diameter mirror, and that's going to be one of the very largest in the world. And of course, on the top of the old extinct volcano in La Palma, the seeing conditions are very good. I was up there the other day, and mainly the cloud level is below you. So a combination of a very large and very good telescope with ideal seeing conditions is going to enable us to peer a long way out into the universe.
This is an optical telescope, isn't it? What's the difference between optical and radio?
Totally different. You see, radio waves, like light, are what they call an electromagnetic vibration. They've got a longer wavelength. And by wavelength, I mean the distance between one wave crest and the next. Well, the radio waves have got very long wavelength, and therefore they don't affect our eyes. And you have to collect them with entirely different things, which we call radio telescopes, although I never think that's a very good name, because the conventional radio telescope is a wire dish. It doesn't produce a picture, and you certainly can't look through it. But of course, you're not nearly so dependent upon the weather and clouds. And the most famous radio telescope in the world is our 250-foot George Road Bank. Not the world's largest now, but probably the best. There's no radio telescope so far on La Palma. I think there almost certainly will be in the foreseeable future, but climate's not so important there. It doesn't matter to radio astronomers whether it's cloudy or not.
I am absolutely astounded by your knowledge. Are you proud of what you've achieved over the past 50 years or over 50 years?
I've achieved nothing. I'm pure amateur. And when you look at the amazing techniques that have been very largely developed here at Herstmonceux Castle, because now we have what we call the electronic revolution. And the electronic device is replacing the camera just as the camera replaced the eye a century ago. And many of these new electronic devices have been developed right here at Herstmonceux. And that's one of the many reasons why Herstmonceux is so very important in the world of science.
I just say that you're terribly modest, Patrick Moore. Thank you very, very much indeed. And back to the music. It's Animotion and Obsession. A great big fantastic device which provides the nation which the Greenwich time signal. We all know what that is. Beep, 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 beep. 5 short ones and 6 long ones. And the head of time, which is a very, very powerful title, I think, is John Pilkington. Which means what? What's head of time?
Well, it means I'm simply in charge of the observatory here.
Now, this machine is massive, this equipment. There are lights flashing, there are things ticking, there are clocks, there are goodness knows what else. What does it do? How does it work?
Well, what it really is that we have a number of very accurate clocks here, and we have to compare them accurately against each other, and we also have to receive radio signals from abroad so that we can compare our clocks with those in other countries.
Are you in charge of time for the whole world, then?
No, that's not true. Time nowadays is a very international organization, and there are people with jobs like mine in a large number of other countries.
Now, when we get the pips at the BBC, do you send them directly to us? Do you send those 5 short ones and that 6 long one to us?
Well, what we send is a sort of unpip. We send a negative of the pip, just so that the BBC knows there's still something there on the end of the line. And when it breaks, then the machine stuff at the BBC actually produces the pips.
So it's the opposite of what we get, really.
We switch the pips from here, but we don't send the signal up the line in the form that it goes out.
Every job has its problems. What happens here? I mean, do things go wrong?
Well, the biggest problem is really just ensuring that the system will keep going. And obviously one doesn't want power cuts. One has to have batteries and so on, but one also has to be able to get the money and the equipment in order to keep the system going.
Do the clocks ever go wrong? I mean, do you ever get America ringing you up and saying, "Oi, you're 4 seconds out"?
They don't do it like that, and it certainly wouldn't be 4 seconds. It would be a few millionths of a second. But essentially, we get information coming in that tells us how our clocks are going in comparison with everybody else's clocks. Real time is now done by averaging clocks in lots of different countries, and so you find out how your clock is going relative to the others.
What happens if there's a power cut? Does everything switch off?
No, it doesn't switch off because we have batteries and generators and so on, which will keep the system going. It's designed to keep going.
If I can say in the nicest way, shut up, because we've got about 3 seconds to go and we're going to get the pips. Impressed or what? They're actually coming from here. The pips have just come out of this thing next to me. Brilliant or what, Steve?
Fantastic timing.
And Tenuous Links Inc. present Culture Club and Time with Clock of the Heart.
Yes, indeedy.
Don't be dirty.
Please, no
We're
more of
talking telescopes. 26-inch telescope, which is used, isn't it, for taking photographs?
Yeah, it's a purely photographic instrument. We use it for taking plates of very distant objects like quasars and safe-at galaxies. That's one of its main uses. We also use it to determine the distance to nearby stars. We do this using photographic plates, you know, like the film you get in your camera.
Yeah.
Well, ours are glass-backed photographic plates, which they store much better. We can keep them for 60 or 70 years, and there's no deterioration.
It's all very impressive stuff, and I've just been looking at the 26-inch telescope, which to me looks a lot bigger. I mean, I thought 26 inches was 26 inches.
No, it's actually 26 inches in diameter. The length is 22 feet.
Can you control them?
I'm not saying anything.
And you've got a floor there that moves, the earth moves there. Well, what's that for?
Well, it's much easier to get to the end of the telescope if the floor moves up and down rather than clambering around on step ladders. People tend to fall off step ladders, so we'd rather move the floor.
And how old is that particular telescope?
It was built in 1896. It was built with a gift of £5,000 from Sir Henry Thompson, and it's built by a firm called Grubb Parsons, who are now at Newcastle.
What I want to know is, if you trained it on one of their windows, perhaps somebody who lives in Hastings, and you looked through their bedroom window, could you see what they were up to?
Well, it would reduce the effective distance down to something like 40 yards, so you'd be able to see them quite easily.
So you all watch yourself in Hastings. These guys could be looking at you. Steve, you got some music?
Yeah, I tell you what, we've got a little bit of this music, also Splach Zarathustra.
Oh, that one.
And we've been playing it in the background all afternoon. So many people say, can we play it for real? So that's what we're going to do now.
Dave King, thank you.
Dave King, ladies and gentlemen. A man with a never mind. I'd like to bring on Patrick Moore. Please give him a nice round of applause. Patrick, can I just say, Patrick, you've been so entertaining this afternoon, just fantastic. Do you ever get fed up with astronomy?
No, never. I mean, it's my hobby and my job too, I suppose. No, it's such a fascinating thing. So much to see.
How long have you been doing the sky at night?
Now very nearly 29 years. A long time ago. I was quite young when I started.
29 years.
Yes.
Let me ask you about the... I mean, I've seen you talk about this on television before, but what is the possibility of life on other planets?
In our own solar system, I would say nil. There's no intelligent life except possibly on the Earth, and I'm not sure about that. But going further afield, other stars, other planets, yes, I'm sure. And I'm quite sure at this very moment there is someone like you facing a microphone talking to someone about that very kind of thing, many light years away.
I tell you what we're going to do. You're going to play... Now, how long have you been playing this? It's a xylophone, isn't it?
It's a xylophone, yes. I've been playing the xylophone for a long time. I'm a total fraud and never had a musical lesson in my life, but I'll do my best.
Well, what we're going to do, we're waiting for your backing music to cue round.
Very well.
We're going to play another record and then come back with it after that, if that's okay with you.
Right you are. I always do as I'm told.
Well, it's 10 minutes to 4, and now it is time to say, here is Patrick Moore live at the Radio 1 Roadshow here at Herstmonceux Castle, playing the xylophone to the entertainer, Patrick Moore. Patrick! We want Patrick! We want Patrick! We want Patrick! We want Patrick!
Thank you very much. I must say, I'd only played that once before on the run through just now, so I got through it anyway.
We thought it was fantastic, didn't we? Patrick, that was absolutely fantastic, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I know that you've got a book coming out soon.
Yes, one about naked eye astronomy. But I'm glad you've all come to Herstmonceux, because this is a great place and it's so important in world astronomy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Moore.